Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lock and Knowledge channel. In this tutorial, or rather a project, we're going to be creating an app called Wedo. And this is going to be done through Xcode. So if you have that on a MacBook, that's perfect, because that's what we're going to be doing it through. And let me tell you what Wedo is basically is. So Wedo, it's just a name I have. The app name may already be used, but I'm basically using it for the sake of the tutorial. But basically, what we do is, and what we're going to create is basically, say you're in the classroom and your teacher assigns a group of y'all to complete a project. And that project, has many tasks that break up the whole project. And you want it like an easy platform to manage all those tasks and also collaborate with one another, make sure that other people in your group are handling those tasks on time so that y'all overall get a good grade. This could be applied to any context, the app. It's just one example I've given there. Basically, it's a collaborative to-dos list app. And basically, if you have a project, you can add many to-do items to that project and invite other people to the same project so that they may also see the to-do items. So that y'all can together complete the to-do items and keep each other on track so they all may overall perform well on the project itself. And also, you can assign certain tasks to certain people within the project in groups. So what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be having messaging so that people can contact one another to keep each other accountable and overall improve the success overall or efficiency of the people that are participating in the project. This is mainly a productivity app. That's also pretty cool because it's collaborative. Um, we're also going to be including rich scheduled notifications. So say you have this to do item um, needs to be finished at this time. And then once you reach that time, you get that notification say, this should be done. And you say, or it could be a reminder to say, this should be done at this time. Any one of those cases, you will have a notification action to say, hey, it is done, and then do it without even opening the app. So that's a really convenient way to have no integrate notifications. And then also, we're going to be adding a widget so that you can see upcoming to-do items so that you don't even have to open the app to see the upcoming to-dos. They're available right on your home screen or your lock screen. And then also, we're going to be integrating Siri so that you can add tasks to your project without having it open in the app as well. You can also ask Siri to say, hey, what are my upcoming to-dos? But mainly, that's for the widgets. So yeah, and then we're also going to be using Firebase, which is basically a server that has a database, but also has other functionalities such as Firebase functions, which allows us to send those notifications at scheduled times. But those Firebase functions do also other things as well. Say, I'll teach you about later on in the whole project. And then also, we're going to be handling asynchronous workflows because it is a server. Well, it's technically serverless for us, but Firebase itself is a server. So we're going to have to be communicating with the server, and the server may take a while to get the data. So it's going to be asynchronous. So you're going to have to tell this app basically to wait for the response before it does anything else in the view. So also, one cool thing that we might be doing is we probably will be doing it. Is it going over to Vision OS, which is the new Apple Vision Pro, and we'll be also moving to the Watch, iPad, and the MacBook. So I'll be teaching you how to go to cross-platform. And once we're all done, I can actually walk you through the App Store of the actual process of publishing it to the App Store, to the App Store Connect. But um, you do have to have an Apple developer account though to actually publish it to the App Store. That's one thing that you may need to consider. So today or in this video, what we're actually going to be doing is setting up Firebase in the Xcode project, and we're going to be setting up the sign in and sign up flow through Firebase auth. So let's because we do need to set up Firebase and Xcode projects, but we also need to set up the connection between the two. Really easy. All you have to do is add a configuration file that that kind of connects you to the server of Firebase. And we're going to go ahead and get started on that. Okay, so we need to create the project via Xcode. Xcode is just an app you can download on the App Store. This tutorial is basically meant for intermediate Swift iOS developers. So if you're a beginner, it may be hard to catch up, but who knows? Let's see. So basically, search up Xcode in the App Store. Should be able to easily download it there. Uh, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and press create new project. This is going to be a standardized app, and we'll be adding other platforms as well, but not yet. Product name is called Wedo. And organization identifier is basically the identifier of your organization. It's its own name. So it could be like a company, but usually it starts with com. See how Apple suggests you to put your company name after the com? So what we could do is com dot, I don't know. You could invent your own company name, but uh, what you can do, or what I'm going to do, is colo that we do, just because it sounds cool. We're going to be using Swift UI, so sorry for those who are still using UI kit. We are using Swift UI. Uh, and then we're going to be creating a project, and I'm going to be storing mine in the I'm going to be storing it in the documents folder. So wherever you want to store yours, you can do that. I'm also going to be storing it, setting up source control, so Git repository. Sometimes this works. So like if you create a Git repository on the Mac, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, oh, it's a local repository. Never mind. Okay, let's just create it. There we go. Nice, clean project. Okay, so now that we have this all set up, let's go ahead and set up the Firebase. So what we're gonna need to do is go to this website called console.firebase.google.com. So I'll have this description or this URL in the description. But basically, what we're going to be doing is create a new project because we'll be handling the database in a new project. Project can be called WeDo, just like this. It creates its own unique identifier, and there we go, we got it correct. But so that way, y'all, as you're creating your project, we won't have the same identifier because it's kind of randomized at those last 5 letters, or numbers, whatever. So we continue. We will not be using Google Analytics, but hey, we can have it enabled just in case you want to up the game in the app. So we're going to be pressing default account and create project. Now this may take minutes just because it's a new project. And so provision resources. Okay. And then it's really quick. Or at least I thought it was. Oh, there we go. Okay, so project is now ready. Easy to go. Let's go. So these are all the platforms we can deploy to. We can go to the web, we can go to Android, we can go to Apple iOS, anywhere else. Unity, which is like a game platform, Flutter, which is something else. I have to look into that. But um, we're going to be doing Apple. Basically, this is the bundle ID that we created earlier. So com.colo.wedo. I'm just going to make sure of that. We can go ahead, hold on, let me move this over. We can go ahead and go here to the project settings. There we go. It is indeed com.colo.wedo. Our app name is called Wedo. App Store ID, we do not have that yet because it's not in the App Store. Register app. Okay. Now this is the configuration file I was talking about. So we're going to download that configuration file. It should be in downloads. Boom. Um, Now it shouldn't be called Google Info plist 2. It's just like that because I have two Google playlists. And the reason of that is because I already did a Firebase project before and I had to download a Google playlist. So what we're going to do is just going to drag and drop it to the project thing. But we're also going to rename it. Just delete that. Oh no. So I suggest just moving this somewhere else because I already have another Google Info list. Oh, let me do this real quick. This is a problem you're not facing probably because you already done it before. But anyways, now that the reference changed, I deleted. Let's just drag and drop your Google list into the project. There we go. Okay, easy as that. And now that the configuration is set up, you can see that the client ID, so the app is the client ID. Reverse client ID is how we get to the server. This is basically all like passwords and how to get to the server. Like that's kind of a password API key. That's how you get to the Firebase API. Um, well, it's basically the connection to the Firebase so that we can use its services, and then so that it can connect to our app. So that's not all though. That's not all. We still have a little more to do. So we do indeed need to add the Firebase functionality to the app. And what I mean by that, we need to have the functions in order to handle adding um, things to the database and also getting things from the database. Those are all functions that we're going to be using. And those functions are not in the app by default. So we're going to have to go to File, Add Packages, and then we're going to have to paste the URL that gives us right here, and add package. This may take a while because it is loaded with a lot. And once that's done, we're going to have to add some initialization code. That way the app can connect to the Firebase through the configuration that it has. That's what it's called, firebase.configure. And we're basically be adding above this app initializer here. So, okay, so these are the packages that we're going to be using, or it's kind of its functionality as well. So each package has its own functionality. And we're be using Firebase auth for login and sign up. We're not going to be using Firebase database because that's kind of old style. This is a new way. This is a new to database, so it's much more easy. It's easier to handle it through Firestore instead of Firebase database. It's still a database, still Firestore is still database. We're going to be using Firebase functions so that we can call some functions such as post notifications. We also need Firebase messaging so that we can receive notifications from Firebase. And we need Firebase storage so we can store photos if the user wants to store photos for the to-do items, things like that. And I think that is it. I think that's all the packages we need. Let's add. And you can see them initializing there. Easy as that. And it is done. So we're going to add that initialization code that we have here. Um, go ahead. You know what? It might be just easier to copy that. Paste it. Firebase core. Okay. It doesn't. I'm gonna have to copy all that because I don't have that as default. There we go. And hopefully we should not see any errors. We do not see any errors. That's good. That everything's successfully imported. It does know what Firebase core is. Um, so right here, it's just basically saying, hey, when you're done launching, make sure, just make sure when you are launching to configure the app with the Firestore. I think this is only called once the app is created. I don't know yet. Um, but now we're gonna set up the whole authentication flow. So basically, there are three states in authentication. One is unauthenticated. Um, Actually, there's only two states. Sorry. One is unauthenticated when you're not logged in at all, or authenticated when you are logged in. And we're not going to allow anyone to use the app if you're not authenticated. Because, I mean, you can use the app, but that kind of ruins the whole purpose of collaborating with other people. Because you can't receive invites and you can't send invites out. Um, I mean, I think you can. It's just going to be hard identifying each other if you're not signed in to Firebase Auth. So that's why I prefer for people to be signed in so that they can have their own user profile and their own user ID um, in the app so that we can like personalize data for each other so that people can send messages to each other so that people can identify each other basically. It's basically a say it's your driver's license. So help you identify people in the app. So now that we got this set up, now, okay, what's going on here? Right now it's preparing the simulators, but let's go to the next step. Continue to the console. They got some documentation here, but we all know ChatGPT is our documentation now. So let's set up Firebase off. So Firebase authentication. So whenever you're setting up things in Firebase, you may have to set them up in the console first before you do anything. Um, so before you start setting up here, you might have to set up a console. So let's press get started. So right now we're only going to be supporting email and password. Kind of basic now, but later on we will add Apple, Sign In, Game Center, Microsoft, all those top companies sign sign-ins accounts. So we're going to do email and password, enable. We're not going to be dealing with email links right now. Let's just leave that out for now, shall we? Okay, it is now enabled. Easy as that. But now we gotta do some code. Okay, that's not easy. Yeah. So let's go ahead and set this up. So all right, everyone, let's get down to business, shall we? So we just added all these packages to the Xcode project. It's probably freaking out. But we can resolve this. We can resolve this. We can resolve this. So there's so many packages for the Xcode to load. So what we need to do is just do Command B. It's going to load all those packages and all the building data so that you can easily cache that data so that it can easily build for simulators. Did you get me there? So like it's basically um, getting all the data that I just recently added so that I can easily build and faster build the apps for the simulators that we're going to be testing later. So basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a new auth folder. So let's create a new group, auth, short for authentication. This is basically we're going to be handling all the authentication of the app. So we're just going to create a Swift app or Swift file, and we're going to be calling authentication view model. Now, if y'all really don't know what a view model is, basically the medium in which data talks to views. That's why it's called the view model. So like I'm getting the data from the Firebase um, database, and then I'm getting and I'm transferring that to the view so that I can display the data. It's a medium basically. Um, so we're gonna need some packages for this to work. So right now we're not going to be storing an image yet. Right now we're just going to be setting it up. So let's do Firebase off right now. We're going to be adding other packages. I'm going to be keeping these packages out right now so that you can overall see how everything works together. So we're going to define a few cases. This actually is three cases, so just found that out. Authentication state. Oh, did I spell that wrong? Authentication state. Yep. Oh, that's good. Case. So it could be authenticated. Like the person cannot be signed in. That's one case. And another case is they are currently being signed in, but they still aren't signed in. Okay. Am I spelling this right? There we go. Authenticate. All right. Case authenticated. That's another one. So they could be authenticated, which is what we want. We don't want someone who's not authenticated to be in the app because who knows who they are. Authentication error. So basically, we're going to be creating our own error. That way, we can identify certain errors and that they're more descriptive because no one wants an error that doesn't tell what it is about. Why can't I type unknown? Oh my gosh. Unknown. Hey, I don't want that. All right, so case. We also need Firebase error, which takes in an error parameter. So that should be good. And then we need enum authentication flow. So basically, this will be handling whether the person's signing up or logging in. We'll be using all of this to help the views um, handle data easier. This is just authentication. So authentication view model. So this class what we're going to create is called a main actor. It's going to be taking the attributes of a main actor. So basically, it's going to be performing all of its operations on the main thread so that the asynchronous tasks are like kind of priority um, of the app. So authentication, because we don't want people to be able to create projects if they're not signed in. So it's kind of a priority for us to have them signed in. So that's why we kind of put it on the main thread. Um, so basically, the values that we're going to be taking in is a username so that we can easily identify each person. We're going to have an email for them because that's the only method of signing right now. And we're going to have this password for them too. We're not going to be storing the password. All we are going to be storing, all we are is going to have a password for text fields so that they can insert the text of the password into a text field and then submit it to the Firebase auth. And then we're also going to need them to confirm the password. Because if the password is not the same, then they really don't know their password. So we're also going to add a profile image. I mean, actually, we're going to add that later, okay? Let's save that for later. So now we're also going to have this is what we're talking about, the flow, the authentication flow. And we're also going to have is valid. So like, is all the information provided when they're signing in or signing up. And we're also going to have authentication state to dot on. They're going to be initially unauthenticated because that's the best way to start off. We don't want to think they're signed in even though they're not. And we're also going to need an error message. So whenever they're signing in, they're missing a password or the password's incorrect, we want to convey that to them. So that's what we're going to convey it to. We're going to convey it to the view model. And also we're gonna have a user. The user is basically the user in Firebase auth. It's its own class, which has its own attributes. It has their own UID, it has their own profile image URL, and it has their own uh, nickname, I think. We'll explore the properties when we get to it. We'll also need a display name, which is basically the username. Um, but I'll tell you why we're keeping it like that for now. Oh, we don't need that. Okay, so now what we want to do is when this class is initialized, we want to register the authentication state. Basically, we want to know who they are and if they even signed in. Um, we also want to know who they are when we start the class because the class will be initialized once the app starts. So we're going to create a separate function for this because we're not going to put it all in the init function because that code looks kind of messy to me. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but that's what it looks like. So we're going to do a register auth state handler. Not going to return anything. If auth state, oops. Um, but we also need to set up um, auth state listener here. Basically, what the auth state handler um, is it basically listens for any changes on the authentication state of the user through the Firebase auth side. So like if they signed out, it will be triggered. If they sign in, it'll be triggered. If their account was deleted from the server side for some reason, it'll be triggered. That's basically what it does. So basically, any state changes are stored in the auth state handler. So if it's nil or the state handler hasn't been assigned to a certain user yet, because the authentication state handler has to be assigned to a user to observe certain changes in the user itself. Um, we're gonna have to assign it. Auth state handler, come on, equal to auth. It's basically auth service from the Firebase app, auth object, and then we're gonna add its state listener. Did change? Yeah. And then we're gonna click auth there, and we're gonna have a user there as the two inputs for the completion handler. And self.user is equal to the user that is passed in from the change, and self dot authentication state. That's why it's optional because the user could be existent or could not, because they could be signed in, or they could not be user at all and not signed in. But yeah, is equal to user, or it's equal now. So basically, if the user is not there, then they're not signed in. Otherwise, they are signed in. And so the self.display name, basically their username, is user dot, okay, why is this name dot display name? If display name is not there or it's nil, because some users can just have an email and password, they don't have to have a username, but in our app, they will be required to have a username. Sorry for anyone who doesn't like that. But yeah, if they don't have a user email either, then hey, they don't have a display name at all. They shouldn't even be signed in because the only way you signed in is easier through your email. That probably will never be reached. Just so you know. So switch flow. So we're also gonna add an easy way. Oh, let's implement this first in the initializer because why are we avoiding that? So register. There we go. So upon initialization, it attaches to the user, listens for changes in the user. If the user is not signed in, unauthenticated, or authenticated if she is signed in. If the user is existent, gets the display name or the email, or nothing at all. So basically, this is some weird syntax I want to show you. But basically, we're going to be combining the email that the user inputs and the password that the user inputs. Clearly, my IDE is glitching out right now. You can see that there's a bug going on. We're going to be combining these variables. And with these combined, we're going to map them. We're going to map them to you. So if we go here, we're going to say self flow email password. Basically, this is a binding, a real-time binding to the it's a real-time binding to the variables themselves, so that we can check in real time if it is valid. So flow.login. If flow is equal to login, then we check is email empty and password is empty. Then we if any of those so basically it's saying if email is empty, that will return true. If password is empty, that will return true. But we want to allow them when this is both. This is not true. Basically, we don't want any of these being true. Yeah. So email dot is empty, and then for this case of the sign in one, we want to check the username as well, because we want the username to be empty. So we're kind of forcing them to have a username. And we assign all of these cases, that is valid. So this is true. If it is a flow login, if a flow is a login, and if their email and password is not empty, because that's basically what it means by not, then it is valid. Easy as that. Now we have to add a dollar sign for the real-time binding. Babe. Okay, what happened here? Hold on for a second. Did I do something wrong here? There's add extra parentheses. All right, there we go. So this is pretty much a good setup so far. We got their state. We can say, hey, when can they sign in? When can they not? We got when the user. We got the cases. Now let's add some quick helper functions. Func switch flow, flow, flow. If flow is equal to login, we'll switch to sign up. Otherwise, we'll switch to login. Easy as that. Error message is equal to nothing. Then we can also do reset. So whenever they log in, everything's reset again. Or whenever they log out, everything is already empty, just in case they sign in and log in the app without quitting the app. We got it here. We got it handled. So let's handle the actual beef of the authentication model. Basically, signing in. So let's put a mark here. Mark is basically marking a section of a code to make it more readable for you and others if you're working with a partner or something. So let's do an extension. So basically it's the same thing as writing it in here, but we're doing it somewhere else so that it looks more readable. We still have the same attributes, but we're just doing it in a cleaner fashion. with email, password, okay? And then it's going to be asynchronous because we're dealing with some servers right here. And it's going to return a bool, so like once they're signed in, we'll return true so that we can dismiss the view of signing in. So at this time, they're signing in. That's when we start everything. So try await because we do a do because there might be an error in signing in because you never know, you might lose connection. You never know when you're online. Everything can be so unpredictable. But we're going to be signing in with email here. Not a link, just with email and password. Self.email, self.password. If let current user is equal to auth.auth dot current user. If the current user is the current user on the server, we'll add that later. Then, yeah, actually, we don't need that. We don't need to make sure that there's. Once that's done, return true because it waits for this to finish, this operation to finish, and then we'll return true. But if we get an error or something, you gotta catch it like a baseball. So we'll print the error and just make sure that the baseball doesn't go over the fence. You know what I'm saying? With the error. So yeah. Authentication state is equal to dot authenticated because they're not signed in because they got an error. Too bad for them. And we'll return false. So don't dismiss the view because they have not signed in. And that error goes away. That's sign in. You know what? Yeah, that's sign in. So now we're gonna sign up. We're gonna add that function for signing up. Go on. Let's set up sign up with email. I just realized I spelled that wrong. Sign up with email. Password. We're not gonna put it in because that's kind of crazy. So let's do a bool again because once they're signed up, we want to dismiss the view again. We want to let them go to the app. So it's kind of the same thing. Authentication state is equal to dot authenticating. Wait a minute. Yeah, I forgot to change that. Authenticating. My bad. And then what we'll do was do the do again. Try await. We'll do the do. And then we'll do auth dot auth dot sign up. Sign up, sign up, sign up, sign up. Oh, it's just called create user. I don't know why they don't do sign up. That would be more convenient. But we'll do the current email that they have in the input, and we'll do the password that they already have. And then we'll return true. That's successful. But if we catch a baseball of an error, then we're gonna have to print the error. An error message. Probably like, hey, you got bad connection or something. Localize. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, error message is equal to error dot localize description. Authentication state is equal to dot authenticated. We'll keep them out. Return false. See how easy it is? Like we're connecting everything. The view model is basically the medium between the back end and front end. We're adding the functionality all to it to make the view overall handle less of the workflow. And also, we want to keep them in on the app all the time. Like if they want to switch accounts or something, we'll allow them to sign out. So let's do the same thing in a do catch. We're going a little faster now because we already know what we're doing. Or hopefully you'll do. So we'll try that. If it doesn't work, we'll print error. Error message, go to error. The localized description will show that in the view. Error dot localized description. There we go. He says that. Hey, and say, hey, say, I'm done, boy. I'm done. Delete the count. Something like that. Hey, it's free country. We'll do it so. Um, we'll do that. We'll allow them to sign out or delete their account because something happened. We never know. You never know what's gonna happen online. But we'll user.delete and we'll return true, and then um, catch. So let's make a little clean, right? Bring it up there. Error message. Go to error dot localized description. Return false. Boom. And that's about it. That is the view model itself of signing in. It seems like it's a lot, but overall, it makes sense. So, what we're going to need to do now is we're actually going to need to create a dynamic flow to show when they're authenticated, when they're not authenticated, and when they're signed in and signing up. So this is going to be some dynamic flow here. So we're going to create a new file, okay? Switch UI file. Still the switch file. We're still having switch UI though. So I'm going to call it authenticated view. You may assume that this is when they're authenticated, but no, in fact, this is where this is the fact where we handle if they're authenticated or not. So we're gonna add extension to the authenticated view. But first, let's create the view before we add an extension. So struct authenticated view. It's gonna take some content and unauthenticated. Authenticated. So whenever it's unauthenticated, we're gonna display some things. View where content view. Seems like a lot. Basically, what it's saying is that basically what it's saying when it's authenticated, we'll display certain views, say, hey, sign up, sign in, do something. And then if they are signed in, we'll display just the content, which is just the app itself, which are both type views. So, yeah. It doesn't conform to protocol view yet because we haven't added anything. Basically, we're going to add observed object private var view model because we're going to be observing this. We're going to be observing the authentication view model to see what state is at and if any. Sorry, observed object. Perfect. And then that state private var presenting login screen because we may present a login screen. If they are authenticated, they will have to sign in. After view builder var content, which displays content. And public initializer. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to request the authentication view model because that's how we're seeing the states. You probably know what we're doing already. Um, we're also going to need some content at escaping. And this is where they're going to be providing the content for the view. And then with that passed in, we will set every property accordingly. So we'll set the authenticated view there. We'll set the content view there. Okay. A lot of typing, just so you know. Coding's all about typing. So here's another initializer. So basically, this is um, for when the unauthenticated view is option or not optional. So like it will be passed in. It's not optional at all. That view will be passed in. So basically, adds dynamic attributes to our authenticated view. Unauthenticated, which is where they're going to be providing the actual view for authenticated, because we know for sure, they will be displaying it, or they will be providing it. That's why there's a thing called optional. Optional means it's not sure that that value will be supplied. So if it's not supplied, it's called nil. Some quick tips there. So we're assigning all the values that have been passed in, and then we passed in the view that they passed in. Boom. Don't worry, we'll use that. We will use it. So now let's create the actual body of the view, the the body. So we switch. That's wipe actions. Come on. View model dot authentication state. So let's see what they're at. Are they authenticating? If they're unauthenticated, or they're authenticating, then we'll just say if let authenticated view in which they passed in authenticated. Oops. Camera unauthenticated. If that view is equal to view, that means if it's not nil, then we'll display that view. Easy as that. Else, if it is nil and they didn't pass in a view, we'll just say, hey, you're not logged in. You are now logged in. And then we'll add a button to say if they're not authenticated. Let's say view model.reset. So whenever they are going to sign in, all the values are empty, so that we're not showing like past login information. And we're actually going to toggle the login screen. And I'm just going to say, we're just going to say for text, tap here to log in. And then we're going to show a nice image of door. You'll see what it looks like, that hand that opened. Yep. And then here, well, actually, no. Sorry, put the VStack in this whole thing. There we go. That full screen cover, which is basically um, a new view that covers the whole screen. Authentication view, which we will define later, but right now at the moment it's not defined. We will define it later though. So now that we have that environment, we're passing the view model in so that we can actually like access the functions like sign in, sign up, and authentication view when they sign up or sign in there. It all makes sense once you start getting into it. So if there is, if they are authenticated, hey, present the main content um, of the app in which they passed in through the parameter. But if there's some reason they sign out, we will have to handle it on the notification center because this is an event. Or actually, no. Um, yeah, this is an event authorization. Apple ID provider. Actually, this is for Apple sign-ins. We're not going to be implementing that yet. Um, but right now we only have login for sign in and sign up with email. So now we're going to be kind of taking care of the authentication view. So let's kind of add that now. Let's do set UI so it has everything in it. Boom. Now we have that. Now, just like the environment object I was talking about, we're going to need an environment object. You can pass it in as a parameter or an environment object. I think environment objects, I think it's a much more cleaner way to do it rather than just passing a variable in. So we have that there. Now we'll say, what flow are they in? Are they logging in? Are they signing up? If they're logging in, then hey, we'll present a login view, which we have not defined yet. Don't worry, there's gonna be some errors. We're gonna bring the object to them as well. Environment object, which is the view model, and then we're gonna be case sign up. We're gonna show the sign up view. You know what I'm doing here. And then environment object, let's just copy that. Easy as that. Now we're going to be creating these views as well. Um, just so that we can get everything set up. Um, but actually, let's go here. So in the content view, which is basically the first view we're going to have, we want to have a navigation stack here. So let's actually create the authentication view model right here. So whenever the app first loads, we have the authentication view model just to check where we at. Are we signed in or not? And perform those operations accordingly. With all the switch statements that we set up already, with all the environment objects passed in, we're going to do a navigation stack so that we'll be able to use navigation views, navigation links. Hopefully you know what those are. If you don't, that is fine. I'll show you what you are. And then authenticated view. This is the parameters I was talking about. So basically, we're going to be passing in a view. We're not going to be passing in an optional view. We're going to be passing in a view and a view for authenticated, unauthenticated, and when they're authenticated. We're going to be passing in the view model as well that we initialize here with the state object. So, auth view model. We're passing in view for a thing not. Say text. Welcome to Wedo. Welcome to Wedo. That's font, the large title. We can make it a large title. Now padding down bottom 3. And also add next text. You need to be logged in to use this app dot font dot title 3. And then we also add some attributes to this to make it look nicer. We can make the bold. So it seems more emphasized. We can add a font design so we're rounded. So um, foreground color and accent color. We'll set up the accent color later. Basically, it's the main color of your app that you're going to be using everywhere. That could be of your own choice, but I'll show you how to set that up. This is where the main thing is showing. Like, hey, if they're signed in, what do we show? Welcome aboard, or something like that. And we could just do that. Just for the preview's sake, we can just do, okay, what's going on here? Oh, it's probably because we have other errors over here. Uh, oh yeah, self.content is equal to self.content. Sorry about that. We're supposed to assign that value there. Um, Actually, it's just equal to content. There we go. Easy as that. So now we must create the login view. We're almost done. We're almost done. We're almost done. I know it's a lot, um, but we'll get through it. So this is going to be the login view, in which they're going to be logging in. We're going to be using Switch UI. Um, so basically, this is going to be a two-part video. So I'm going to be showing you how to set up the login view and the sign-up view um, in the next video, because I don't want to make this too long, so that you can watch it in increments. So I'll see y'all later. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue this very fun app, which is just going to be fun to see how it works off.